Do you think your life has meaning? Well, hopefully you do, because this lady on my right is a nihilist and doesn't think that anything has meaning. There's no meaning to absolute nothing. And then the lady that's sitting across from her is Jordan Peterson. Hopefully he's going to provide a good argument as to why things do have meaning and why this lady is completely wrong on the idea that nothing has meaning. So let's just go ahead and skip the intro and get right into it, because I'm very interested in this.
When horrible things happen to me, or I feel, or I read some terrible thing going on in the world, yes, those are tragedies going on in the world, my response is, nothing matters. It's all empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it. Get on with it, girl.
That sounds like a very Zen Buddhist way of dealing.
I guess it is.
Meaning.
Well, it's a paradoxical way, though, because
it is paradoxical.
the first part of that is nihilistic, and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things?
You can't reconcile it, because the first part is, why get on with that? Why we get on with anything? Because nothing has meaning. You shouldn't act towards anything. If you act towards something, then whatever that thing you're acting towards has to have some type of meaning to you, surely, right?
Why get on with it, girl?
Because,
Yeah.
well, here's another thing. I've often done this with my students. Let's suppose you become nihilistic. Nothing matters. There's no point in doing it. I mean, I think we live in a pointless universe. What are you going to do? And I say to them, like William James in his wonderful thing about getting up in the morning, but that's a slightly different point that he makes there. But I say to them, okay, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, think it's all pointless. There's no point in doing anything. Now, what are you going to do? Well, actually, you're going to need...
Well, if I was intellectually honest, I would do nothing. But if I act, then I'm intellectually dishonest. I'm contradicting what I hold to believe.
to go to the loo. You're going to get out of bed and you're going to go to the bathroom. And when you're there, you'll think, actually, I'm hungry. I think I want to go down to the kitchen. I probably should put my slippers on. Why don't I get dressed?
Why
you go and
do
have
you
something
care?
to eat. And then you think, I'm bored. And you go to university and get into your lectures. And, we are not creatures who will just not do anything. To me,
We are creatures that will not just will do nothing. So our body controls us, that we have no free will or anything like that. Like I don't understand what's going on. Is that our bodies are just some type of determined beings and we can't control what we do. We have no choice. I don't know. I'm pretty sure like ancient Eastern philosophy would heavily disagree, because people would literally just go like this, and despite their hunger, despite the itches on their foreheads and all the bugs around them and whatever, they will sit there like this, close their eyes for hours despite their hunger and whatever bothers them. Why? Because they have free will and they have a choice. They choose to not be messed with external reality. So, you can literally sit there and do nothing and eventually just die.
me, to go through that process, which I've done in the past a lot, and it's just natural now, is a very positive way of living. To accept the meaningless and ultimate emptiness of everything, and accept that this creature here, this thing, this evolved creature just will get on with life.
But you're not accepting the meaninglessness of it, even by going through
you
those
aren't
actions
accepting
that
it.
You don't think
described.
so?
Not
Well,
at all,
how can
because
you say
you're
that?
because you're acting as if those things are meaningful.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
acting
Okay,
as though
so
those
let's-
things-
You're
okay,
pretending
so
that
let-
they're meaningful?
Pardon?
Are you pretending that they're meaningful?
No, I'm not pretending. My way of putting it would be that those meanings are constructed by myself and others.
They're personal
and they're
meanings rather than...
because of the kind of creatures we are, because of the
Okay, so her conception of meaning is like that the only way that anything has meaning is if it's instituted from a being beyond us, right? That God kind of, like, it's kind of a really religious view, but like God institutes meaning to everything, and therefore, whatever. But the problem is that, well, one, that would be wrong. But secondly, the only way we know that things have meaning is that we observe organisms, living matter. Like rocks, like nothing means anything to rocks. Rocks have no goals, have no values, right? It's only living organism that has goals and values. And the way that they achieve those values is by figuring out what helps them to achieve that value. There's a reason why monkeys climb to trees to eat bananas, because it satisfies their hunger. That banana has meaning in reference to that monkey. A rock don't have the same meaning as a banana because it doesn't satisfy the monkey's hunger, right? Rocks may have meaning if they discover, how to make tools out of it, yeah, then that has a meaning, just on a different standard than the banana. But things only have meaning in reference to living organisms, and we get to institute our own meanings, our own purpose, our own values in life and goals.
But they're not constructed.
I'd like to hear
Hunger
Jordan's
isn't
response to this.
constructed. Neither is your desire to use the loo. None of that's constructed.
No. But the fact that there is a loo is part
Yes.
of culture.
Yeah, well, thank
And the
God
fact
for that.
Yeah.
But see,
Oh, you thank God, would you,
see,
for that? Sorry, that's a poor joke.
Well, you see, so imagine this. You have the proximal meanings that you described that are sort of a priori, right?
Yep.
They're handed to you. You might consider them as needs or drives, although they're
Yes.
not. They're personalities. That's not the right way of conceptualizing them. But then there's the intermingling of all those needs and drives, let's say, and that constitutes a new layer of structure, because it isn't just that you have to eat and that you have to use the washroom and that you have to have something to drink and that you have to be warm enough or cool enough to survive. It's that you have to do all those things at the same time in a situation where you're going to have to propagate that across time, and you're going to have to do it with a bunch of other people. Yep. And it's always been like that. And so what that means is that out of those proximal meanings, higher meanings arise. And you might say, well, those meanings are arbitrary. And I would think those are religious
I
meanings.
wouldn't say they are arbitrary, but I would say they were constructed. It's very interesting. Reading your
what
book...
do you mean by constructed?
Well, they are a consequence of mimetic evolution, of the language that people are brought up in.
I think what she's getting at is that, because we self-give our own meanings to certain things, it's subjective, therefore it's not real. But the thing is that these meanings are real. They are objective. They are within reality. Why? The same thing with let's not use the monkey, but me and a banana. I know this banana by a fact is going to satisfy my hunger. That is a fact about this banana and its relationship to me, right? That's not just me, my random desire and emotions that I believe it's going to satisfy my hunger and I eat it and it doesn't or whatever. No, that's a fact that it's going to satisfy my hunger. And that's why this banana has objective, real value, has a real meaning to it in reference to me. Now, if I'm already full and there's a banana there, well, it doesn't have meaning for that instance. It doesn't have meaning. Maybe it has meaning later when I do become hungry, but it doesn't have meaning there. So yeah, meaning can be objective in this sense, but she thinks objective means beyond humanity. It cannot be instituted by humans because we're inherently subjective or whatever that nonsense is.
In the culture they live in, the arguments they have. I mean,
what about the biology that they're given?
Well, we start with the biology, and the memes build on top of that.
The memes are biology too.
Well, by definition, they are. Well,
see, this is the thing.
I would follow Dawkins in saying, well, talk about genes as biology, talk about memes as culture. That's all I meant by dividing that. But let me say this.
Yeah, but I don't accept that division.
But I want to get back to what we're saying about
division.
meaning. Reading your book made me think a lot about what you mean by meaning, and your claim that we should have a meaningful life or strive for a meaningful life, that meaningfulness is important. And I kept asking myself,
it's important for life. If your life doesn't have meaning, then there's no reason for you to live. It's simple.
Do I live that way? What meanings does my life have? And if I think of something most of my striving goes into writing my books, and is that meaningful? And again, I have the same response when I ask myself that question. It's just what this body does.
It's just what this body does. Not that you choose to do it and you actually believe it has implicitly has meaning to it, but it's just what it does, man. It's just no free will. It's just out the window.
You should listen to the body and stop listening to the thing that's criticizing it.
And what would the body say?
It would say, write your book and try to be as clear as you possibly can
that's
about
what I do. And that's
right,
exactly what I do.
What I said at the beginning is that the atheist types act out a religious structure and
No,
criticize
there's
it.
no religious structure.
Act out of a religious... that's a fire point. Act out of a religious structure and criticize it. That's true. Because the only way that anything has meaning, again, it's from divine being, something beyond us, some cosmic supernaturalism or whatever. It's no, we institute our own meaning. Why? Or how? Well, we look at something, we evaluate it, we make our own goals, and we say, well, does this fulfill my goal? Yes or no? Well, if it does, then that thing has meaning. If no, then that thing doesn't have meaning. It's that simple.